Welcome to my awesome book haul. I'm Niki, the Obsessive Bookseller, and the books you will be seeing today are a result of my used bookstore trek across the Salt Lake City area. This is kind of turning into one of my favorite things to do. You know how there are some people who want to visit all of the Major League Baseball stadiums in the US? Yeah, I think I want to hit all of the used bookstores. It started last fall when we went on a used bookstore trek down the western United States coast and brought back like 100 books. So many books. I'll leave a link in the description for that series as well. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, I explored every used bookstore of interest in Salt Lake City and went with a pretty conservative eye. I had very specific things that I wanted to bring home. So yeah, this is the haul. First up, I picked up Saga of the Seven Sons by Kevin J. Anderson. Author signed, really beautiful hardcover. If you've been following my Sunday Shelfie series, you'll note that I've discussed this book a few times. I haven't read anything by this author, but I figure I really like the concept, I've heard it's pretty good, and could not pass up a signed hardcover of the first book. And it is in absolutely immaculate condition. Half of the books that I got here, I got from the Painted Garden bookstore in Sandy, Utah. It is my new favorite used bookshop. I'm going to try to figure out a way to continue working with the owner of that store to get a hold of these awesome, beautiful hardcovers, because he is so picky in everything he brings into that store, and everything was just beautiful. So this is one of many amazing titles I got there. Next, the only young adult in the lineup, The Last Academy by Anne Applegate. I love school settings, and it seems like kind of a murder mystery school setting. And this one I have seen floating around, and I haven't seen very good reviews for it, but it was only a couple bucks. I thought, I'll give it a try. This was definitely an indulgent buy that I'm probably going to regret. In the Labyrinth of Drakes by Marie Brennan. This is book 4 in the Lady Trent memoir series. This was my favorite one of my all-time favorite books. I love the discoveries. While I already have a hardcover of this book, I bought it on bargain and it came pretty dinged up. Of course it did. It was my favorite one in the series and it was the most beat up. So now I have this beautiful, pristine, signed hardcover, and finding a signed one for one of your all-time favorite books is like so good. I picked up Nama's Kiss by Jacqueline Carey. It's part of the Kushiel's Legacy saga. Before going on the trek, I had a few very specific things I knew I wanted to look for. This title, I have tried to order online several times, and each time it comes as the smaller book club edition, even though it's very clearly listed as the 9.5 like standard size on the website. So I get the wrong one, and I got so sick of dealing with it that I just kept the smaller one, and it looks so awkward on the shelf. So I found this one at relatively inexpensive, and it's a very beautiful, very well-kept hardcover. So for the series, I still need to replace Kushiel's Skyen, which was my favorite of the series, because the copy that I have is really dinged up, like really loose binding and kind of gross. And I still need a hardcover of Kushiel's Chosen. So the saga to complete this collection continues. I've been working on it for like 4 years. Okay, here's the before. You can see this one sticks out like an absolute sore thumb. And here's the after. Much, much, much better. And I am very excited about this next one. I have here a signed copy of my all-time favorite young adult fantasy book, The Girl of Fire and Thorns by Ray Carson. I've geeked out about this book so many times on my other videos. Signed. And I can't believe I was lucky enough to find this. Of all the books in my young adult section, this is the one that I wish I had had signed because I loved it so much. So now, yay, I'm so excited. The copy itself has just a little bit of imperfection, but for the most part, it's pretty good. Like from the spine, you'll never be able to tell. Very happy to add this to my collection. I picked up a beautiful hardcover of Migration by Julie Chernita. This is one of my all-time favorite sci-fi books. And I have a copy already. It's one of the shorter book club editions, and it's kind of grimy. I found it at a used bookstore several years ago, one of my very first used purchases, and I like the series too much to pass up on a beautiful copy of the first book. But see, This is where the can of worms opens, because now that I know they are available in hardcovers in the standard size, I'm probably going to try to collect the rest of the series. So yeah, always one more thing. I picked up Wolfblade by Jennifer Fallon. I have been slowly acquiring all of the books in this same world. So I've got the first 3 Medallion books, and then this is a spin-off trilogy tied to it, and it was relatively inexpensive, so I thought, okay, may as well collect the next one. Although I'm pretty sure on my West Coast trek, I found books 2 and 3 in this series, and now that I have the first one, I'm kind of kicking myself for not buying those. But I mean, at least I know they're available. So there were quite a few bookstores that we ventured in thinking there's not going to be anything in here I want. But we're going to go look anyway, because all it takes is that like one discovery to make it worth the trip. And in one of the stores that had very limited stock, I found my one book that was worth making the whole trip over there for. This is a book club sized edition of Servant of the Empire, the second book in the Empire saga by Raymond E. Feist and Janny Wurst. And if you've been following my channel, you know how much I love this series. And my mom has had this old classic same size hardcover for my entire life about. And so being able to add a second one, even though they're the book club editions, I'm okay with that because this is my mom's original, so it's got a lot of sentimental value. So the fact that this one's smaller doesn't bother me in this particular case. But now I need the third one. I have been trying to round out my Rune Lords collection by David Farland, and I went up knowing that I wanted to find these 2 books. And the funny thing is these are the only 2 books from the series that I was able to find, and they happen to be the ones that I was missing. So we've got the 5th book here, and then 8th book, I think, the final one, and it's an autographed copy, so that's pretty cool. I almost didn't pick it up because it's got kind of a tear on here, but after doing some research online, I figured they were only $5 cheaper online, and there was no guarantee that I'd get them in any good condition, and this one was signed, so I thought, okay, pick up the signed one, just do it. So I am really grateful that I have completed this collection. Yeah. Here's the before. That is just beautiful. So nice to have the entire thing. And I may not even need to hang on to these paperbacks anymore. Those are the ones I actually physically read. And then I added the Jennifer Fallon one over here. Ta-da! And David Farland is a pen name for Dave Wolverton. And one of the first things he wrote that gained a lot of really good reviews was this Star Wars courtship of Princess Leia. And it's one that I've had in paperback before, but I thought, you know, it's pretty cool to find a relatively inexpensive hardcover, so pick this one up as well. So one of the last places I went to, I came across a whole bunch of Terry Goodkind books, and they were in like immaculate condition. And I thought, oh, okay, I already have these. I got them on my last Used Bookstore Trek, but they were in really rough condition, and I didn't have time to like cross-reference to see which ones that I needed. And so I looked at the back, and it's only $5. Okay, for $5 I'm willing to gamble. And yes, as it turns out, this one is a much cleaner copy than the one that I already have. So I bought this one to replace that one, but it was a gamble. And incidentally, this was not the dirtiest one that I have, but at least now it's like, yeah, pretty cool. And I may have even mentioned this in the actual Trek video, but one of the highest priorities for me was finding nice hardcovers of Robin Hobb. And I would say this is a success. I found a few. So I've been having the most difficult time finding a standard sized hardcover of Ship of Magic. The other ones I was able to pick up, but this one, every time I get it, again, it's the same like small copy. And I even email the third-party sellers and say, can you confirm that this is the right size? And they said, well, we don't have any reason to think it's not. It's what it's listed as, and yet the book club edition still shows up. So anyway, finally have a copy completing my Live Ship Traders collection, and I am thrilled. And then, again, while I was on that other trek, this is my all-time favorite book. All-time, #1, out of the couple of thousand that I've read, #1 very favorite book. And while I did my first Used Bookstore Trek, I bought the very first one that I came across because I didn't know how rare they were, and it's a pretty rough shape. So to come across this one that is in excellent condition, dang near new, I thought I'm buying that. I don't care how much it costs. And actually, I think it was only $10. So yes, this will be replacing my other copy. This one's going to be really satisfying. So here's the before. Very blatantly, clearly awkward fit here. And the after. Isn't that so satisfying? This is such a beautiful collection. This is my favorite shelf in my entire library. I love it so much. And ironically, the Rainwild books here are the two hardcovers that I started out with before I started collecting the rest of the series in hardcover. And now they are the ones where I still need 2 more books to complete that. So these started it all, and now I need to finish it with completing that series. Now, the only other one I might look into, this copy of Golden Fool, is pretty grimy. I snagged it because I wasn't sure if I'd be able to find another copy, so I might be seeing if I can replace that one with a less grody copy. But yeah, so beautiful. And then The Shaman's Crossing, which is a trilogy by Hobb that I haven't read yet. Well, no, that's not strictly true. I read the first half, I tried it on audio, hated the narrator, so I put it down thinking I'll pick it back up when I have a chance to physically read it. Very nice copy of the first book. I already have it in a book club edition, but y'all know I hate that size. So anything Hobb I was willing to buy regardless. So adding this one as well. The before? I kind of think it's cool that I've got an arc for the second book here, so I don't know if I'm going to replace that. I was hunting very seriously for a replacement for this wonky, no-cover third book. And actually, I saw one when I was on the West Coast and didn't pick it up then, and I'm kind of kicking myself, but at least I know, again, that they are available. So here's where we're at for now. Another series of interest I was looking to fill in the gaps on are hardcovers of the Redwall series. This is the only Redwall hardcover that I've found on the trek, and it happens to be one I don't have, so I'm really excited to add this to the collection. And this time, luckily, I was smart enough to take pictures of all of my sections that I wanted to fill in the gaps of, so while I was at the bookstores, all I had to do was open my phone and kind of flip to the picture. Oh yeah, I don't have that one, great. So much more efficient. The before and the after. Kind of a marginal difference, but you know, one book at a time, and eventually I'll have the whole collection. I am noticing that his name is more prominent on this one than any of the others, which I find slightly annoying. And this next one, Green by J. Lake. How many times have I talked about this book, even though I've never read it, and had to find the cover image to plunk in because I didn't have an actual copy? So this one's complete. This is pretty cool. I found this in the young adult section of a used bookstore instead of in the fantasy section. It was so much fun to find it because I'm like, oh, no one else would think to look here. So there is something to be said for browsing the entire store because they're just going off of cover appeal and back of the book description, and they put it where they think it would fit best, where they think it would appeal to the most people. So you can find some really cool stuff shelved in the wrong place. Anyway, I am glad that I finally have a copy of this. It better be good. How often I've mentioned it on this channel, it better be a good book. The before, the after. Now there is balance in the universe again. Well, not because the spines are even. That's kind of annoying. There is absolutely no reason why they couldn't have put that there. I about hit the floor of the shop when I saw this one. It is a beautiful, standard size hardcover of Red Seas Under Red Skies by Scott Lynch. It's the second book in the Gentleman Bastard series, and it also made my very, very conservative list of all-time favorite books. I love this book so much. And to find a hardcover, even though I don't have anything to go with it, it was worth picking up. It was amazing. I paid way too much for it, but I love that I have this now. So now I'm going to have to maybe hunt for the first and the third one. This one's kind of fun. I picked up the middle grade series Spirit Animals. The first one was written by Brandon Mull, and he kind of like, I think, did the outline for the whole series, and then individual unique authors wrote the rest of them. So this one's Marie Blue, this one's Shannon Hale, and so forth. I'd always wanted to complete this collection, but retail, each of these are $13, and I thought, you know, there are things I'd rather have a little bit more than paying $13 a pop for all of these, but I found them in the used bookstore. Clearly, if they've been read, they've only been read once and they were handled really carefully. They are dang near new, but I found them for $7 a piece, and I thought, perfect. These are the book gods rewarding me for being patient. Now this collection is complete, and my son is just about old enough to get into these with me, so I can't wait. And the last two, okay, you're gonna laugh at me, but I found this beautiful hardcover of the awesome artwork edition of Homeland that I talked about so much in the last Trek video, and it was only $10, and it's a beautiful copy. And I could not remember the one that I paid an exorbitant amount of money for online, if it was in good condition or not, and so I feel like greedy. I was Salvatore greedy, so I just gobbled this one up and thought, that's coming home with me, I don't care if I need it or not. So now I have two. I went from being on the hunt, not having any, to having 2 copies of the first one, and I figure the first one was really hard to get a hold of. So now, if nothing else, this is an investment. I had a weak moment. I bought it. I did not need that one. And last but not least, I picked up Mortalis by R.I. Salvatore. So this Corona universe, this is part of that series. The most recent 3 books that came out, really love them. Such brilliant writing in them. He's come so far as an author. The first book in the Corona saga, written in like the 80s, is The Demon Awakens, and I thought it was a pretty decent classic fantasy. I really enjoyed it, and then just hated the second book. I don't even remember what I didn't like about it. I think it was just so boring. I was forcing myself through it, and the person kind of encouraging me to keep going with the series said that if I can make it to this one, it's awesome. It's kind of like a next-gen thing. So I may skip the ones that I was having trouble with and dive straight into this one. And as a bonus, it's an autographed copy, which honestly is one of the reasons that I brought it home. And it's inscribed to Kelly, but at least it's a signed copy. I think that's pretty cool. Now, I showed some restraint in this series as well. The original trilogy that I mentioned having trouble with, I found these beautiful hardcovers for. But I'm like, do I really want to spend like $35 for the whole set when I didn't even like the series? So this may not seem like me showing restraint, but we are getting there. So that's the haul. I am tickled at the number of cool things that I was able to bring home. I don't know when I'm going to have a chance to do this again. Obviously, you can't go back to the same used bookstores for a while because the like rotation of stock, at least with hardcovers, and there's not a big turnover with that, so you got to give them a few years to kind of replenish a little bit. So now I'm thinking, I'm like, maybe I could go down to Phoenix. But for sure, anytime my travels take me to a new city, I'm going to include a used bookstore portion of that trek. I think it is something that I really enjoy doing. It's so much fun to go on the hunt, and I have a lot of really cool titles to show for it this time. And most of them were books that I was specifically on the hunt for, as opposed to last time where I just brought home anything that seemed awesome. Yep, thank you so much for joining me on this book haul, and I hope to catch you next time. Bye.